began in the shower right underneath his feet. And new outrage tonight from American authorities. Also breaking, the Boston police captain who turned his own son in. Authorities say that son was planning a major attack. The massive storm, tornadoes touching down, severe weather for 60 million tonight from Minneapolis to Atlanta. The East Coast gets hit next. And an ABC News exclusive. My interview with Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker tonight, just announcing he's in. His reaction to Donald Trump. We ask, is Jeb Bush a name from the past? And the family very honest about the one issue they don't agree with their father on.
From ABC News World Headquarters, this is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Monday night. And we begin with breaking news in that international manhunt, the urgent search for one of the most dangerous criminals in the world, Joaquin Guzman, El Chapo, on the run after that brazen prison break outside Mexico City. He's done this before, right here, recaptured after breaking free the first time. Authorities tonight believe this was where he emerged, the hole at the end of a mile-long tunnel that began in that prison shower. And tonight, the feds here in the U.S. revealing the elaborate plots to bust him out of that maximum security prison may have started the moment he went in. ABC's Gio Benitez on the ground in Mexico, leading us off tonight.
Tonight, police searching pipes, cars, and packed buses, searching for Joaquin Guzman, known as El Chapo, the Shorty, a billion-dollar man responsible for a quarter of the drugs in the U.S. and long wanted by U.S. authorities. Guzman escaping from this maximum security prison 55 miles outside of Mexico City Saturday night. He was last seen in the shower area of his cell around 8:50 p.m. Authorities say he fled through a dugout hole just 20 inches by 20 inches wide. Authorities finding a ladder they believe he used to drop himself 30 feet below ground, winding his way through a mile-long labyrinth of tunnels. The passage about as tall as El Chapo himself, 5 feet 6 inches, but well lit and fully ventilated with PVC piping. The passage even outfitted with a motorcycle used to help move earth and dig the tunnel out. This is the hole they believe he escaped from. And this is where you can really see the audacity of this plan. That's the prison right there. And right over here in the prison's own backyard, that's the house where El Chapo emerged from, then disappeared.
This is a man that is known for having a team of engineers and miners, some of the best in Mexico, who are there just to build these tunnels.
We met a man named Eric who delivers gas to houses in the neighborhood and says it was built very quickly.
In 6-7 meses, 6 to 7 months, that house was built.
He's escaped before and was on the run for 13 years until his capture last year. The government had promised he would never escape again. And tonight, sources tell us that U.S. officials knew about possible escape plans from just about the day El Chapo was captured. They say they warned Mexican authorities, and though they're upset, they're not surprised, David.
Gio Benitez tonight in Mexico. Gio, thank you. And now to the other breaking headline we're following tonight. The veteran police captain from Boston, one of the heroes who answered the call on the day of the Boston bombings. Tonight here, we've learned he has turned his own son in, now accused of plotting an ISIS-inspired attack, hoping to kill here at home, according to authorities. ABC's chief investigative correspondent, Brian Ross, on what we know about this alleged plot.
Among the police officers responding to the Boston Marathon bombing and its deadly pressure cooker bombs was veteran Captain Robert Ciccolo. But tonight, the FBI says the captain's own son, a one-time peace activist seen here, sought to build his own pressure cooker bombs and become an ISIS killer. 23-year-old Alexander Ciccolo was arrested by the FBI on July 4th after a long investigation triggered, officials say, by a tip from his father, the police captain. The son's plan, the FBI says, was to set off his bombs at the crowded cafeteria of a major college campus and at a nearby gay bar. And then, the FBI says, execute non-Muslim students live via the internet. He lived in the tiny Massachusetts hamlet of Adams, where he was arrested on the morning of July 4th after buying 4 high-powered weapons from an undercover FBI operative. In a search of Ciccolo's apartment, agents say they found a pressure cooker he had bought just the day before. Tonight, the FBI says Ciccolo had set a deadline of July 31st for his alleged campus attack. Late today, his family said it was saddened and disappointed to learn of their son's intentions, but grateful that he was stopped in time, David.
Brian Ross with us tonight. Brian, thank you. And we move on now to the severe weather slamming the heartland at this hour. 60 million Americans from Minnesota to Georgia. Severe thunderstorm and tornado watches in 10 states. At least 4 reported tornadoes in just the last 24 hours. This one in Campbell, Minnesota. The racetrack in Brainerd, Minnesota, that's mangled there. And just look at this, the gathering storms over Indianapolis. Quite a sight today. Let's get right to meteorologist Rob Marciano, because this involves millions of Americans, and then the whole thing is moving eastward, right?
It is quite quickly. Over 300 wind reports in the last 2 days, some of those over 80 miles an hour. Huge swath of damage. On the radar, you see that line moving into the Virginias right now. That has gone over 800 miles from Minnesota in the last 20 hours. That's where all the damage is. We've got watch boxes up, including that tornado watch for northern Illinois, include Chicago. But more clusters fire St. Louis, Indianapolis, and through Louisville. These are going to have strong storms and big-time hail as well. We're really concerned, though, about northern Illinois as we go through tonight. And then tomorrow, it all slides to the east. Tennessee, the target zone, as is the Carolinas, and yes, the East Coast. Feeding into these storms, extreme heat and humidity. So many Americans are facing up and over 100 degrees, uncomfortable energy that the atmosphere is using, David.
All right, tracking this tonight right through GMA in the morning. Rob, thank you. Now to the race for 2016 and to an ABC News exclusive this evening. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker making it official. He's in now, the 15th Republican contender. He's topping the polls in Iowa. And if you don't know his name, you're about to. Over the weekend, I traveled to Wisconsin to sit down with the governor and his family. No questions off limits. His reaction to Donald Trump. Is Jeb Bush a name from the past? And the disagreement with his wife and 2 sons over one major issue. The Walkers, right here tonight.
See ya.
Great to see you.
Yeah, thanks.
Tonette.
The Walker family at the governor's mansion in Madison, Wisconsin.
This is the first sit-down interview with the entire family. And I'm curious, how does the family feel about this?
I think we're ready for it. I mean, we can never be ready for this, I guess, but we've had quite a few campaigns in the last 4 years.
Quite a few campaigns because Scott Walker was elected governor, famously fought the unions, survived a recall, and was then reelected.
I didn't just face death threats. There were threats against them. There were protests in front of our house. Part of it is, as a family, we know we've been tested. We've been tested like I think nobody else out there.
Trial by fire for this couple. Tonette was actually from a Democratic family.
You actually got married on Ronald Reagan's birthday.
We did.
Yeah.
I don't know if I knew that at the time, but I think he liked that fact because he has yet to forget my anniversary.
In fact, this year he tweeted happy anniversary to his wife. Then a short time later, a tweet marking the anniversary of Reagan's birth. One of his first jobs at this McDonald's in Delavan, Iowa.
Maybe he served you a cheeseburger a few years back.
He could have.
He could have very well.
Inside, his former shift manager, Rita, now runs it all. The grill where he once stood still there, but that second drive-through is new.
Just checking out the old stomps here. I used to work here as a kid.
He tells that young voter he's running for president.
You are the 15th Republican now to fight for this nomination. What do the American voters not know about you that helps seal the deal?
If Republicans are going to take on a name from the past and Hillary Clinton, they need a name from the future.
Is Jeb Bush a name from the past or a name for the future?
Well, Jeb's a good guy. He's a friend of mine. He was a good governor in Florida. But I don't think a name from the past beats a name from the past.
There are a lot of people talking about Donald Trump right now. He's now leading in some polls in the Republican field. Jeb Bush has said that he believes what Trump has said about Mexicans is really meant to inflame and incite. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think Donald Trump and any of the others can speak for themselves. What I'm going to do is lay out what I'm for.
Eventually, though, you could very well be on that debate stage with Trump, and if he said on that stage what he has said about Mexicans, what would you say to him?
I'd say, like I said with other candidates, I respectfully disagree with him. I have a policy when it comes to immigration. Mine is simple. Secure the border, enforce the law. I don't believe in amnesty.
You talk about amnesty. You were at one point for a path to citizenship. No longer.
No, and part of it is, and I've laid it out. I've said I'm clearly stating that. I'm not beating around the bush.
What made you change your mind?
Well, a combination of things. I mean, I looked at how this president messed up the immigration system we have today.
And what do you do, Governor, with those 11 million undocumented immigrants? Do you send them home?
No, I think part of the problem that we have is that everybody wants to jump forward to one part of the equation without dealing with things we need to do in the right order.
You made some headlines this year when you were asked how you would deal with ISIS. You said if you could handle 100,000 Wisconsin protesters, those union protesters, that you could handle ISIS. Would you answer differently?
Yeah, although I think the people who were there took it the way I intended, and I would shape it differently. Because I said moments after that, when someone asked me, of course I'm not equating those protesters with ISIS.
So we give you a redo. What would you do?
Well, my point is that nobody, even Secretary of State Clinton, nobody in this race has the experience that a president would need directly. So my point is, as a governor who went through incredible pressure to take on things that were literally, in my case, not just about political pressure, but about personal attacks, about death threats, I believe the next president is going to have the capacity to deal with that kind of pressure.
And while his role model remains Ronald Reagan, he counts on his wife. And they were very honest. They don't always agree. Most recently, on the Supreme Court's decision on same-sex marriage.
You called it a grave mistake. And I know that you heard from within the family that not everybody agreed with you on that. And how difficult is that as a family? Because it was your cousin, you described her as a sister to you?
Her cousin married her longtime partner, and one of the governor's sons, a witness at the ceremony.
And so when your husband, the governor, says it was a grave mistake, what do you say?
Well, I was more concerned that I got calls from both the boys of being upset about what Scott had said. And so my advice to them was, don't come to me, go to him, he said it. And so they had the conversation. For me, I reached out to my cousin right away and said, this is the same person that he was last week that you've known for 20-some years. It took us 2-3 days to talk with family, with Shelley and Kathy, and I think everything's, we're back to where we were before.
But you haven't changed your stance.
No. But we love him, and for us, love's going to be the focus of everything we do with our family and our close friends.
Governor Scott Walker and his family sitting down with us. We'll have much more tonight on Nightline. And on the same day as the announcement, Hillary Clinton taking aim, accusing Governor Walker of, quote, stomping on workers' rights. In her first economic policy speech, Clinton promising to, quote, propose ways for companies to share more of their profits with employees. Around the world tonight, into the Middle East now, an update on a story that made global headlines involving that American teacher, the mother of twin boys, brutally attacked and killed in a luxury mall in Abu Dhabi last year. This woman, covered in traditional robes, seen on surveillance footage. Well, tonight, word that the UAE citizen has been put to death 2 weeks after she was convicted of the teacher's murder. A developing headline from Vienna tonight, those high-stakes negotiations with Iran to hammer out a deal cutting Iran's ability to build a nuclear bomb. The deadline now looming, and now comes word signs of an historic deal could come at any time. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Terry Moran standing by. Terry?
Good evening, David. Today we're hearing from these negotiators that they can see the finish line in these historic talks, but they just can't get there. They still can't get to yes. The basic deal is clear. Iran wants no more sanctions immediately. The right to develop peaceful nuclear programs. They basically want to be a normal country again. The U.S. wants sanctions lifted gradually, strict nuclear inspections for at least 10 years, basically Iran on probation. So the sticking points, how fast should those sanctions be lifted? And what about that UN arms embargo that stops Iran from developing conventional weapons like missiles? They aren't easy issues. These talks in Vienna have gone on for 17 days, and no one here wants to give up yet. David?
Terry Moran standing by for us. Terry, thank you. And Greece now agreeing to a third bailout, $95 billion in new aid. The tentative deal would keep Greece in the Eurozone, but it calls for new austerity measures. On Wall Street today, stocks soaring on the news, the Dow closing up more than 217 points. And from the Pentagon tonight, they are announcing they will now consider lifting the ban on transgender individuals from military service. Defense Secretary Ash Carter saying anyone wishing to serve should be able to do so openly. They will study it. A major development tonight in that mysterious explosion at a beach in Rhode Island over the weekend. A woman hurled 4 feet into the air. The cause remains a mystery, but late today, this image, workers digging in the sand for clues, and ABC's Lindsay Janis on what they found.
Tonight, investigators trying to figure out what caused a powerful explosion on this crowded Rhode Island beach. The blast launching 60-year-old Kathleen Denise into the air.
And it was a beautiful day. The last thing I remember was reading my book.
Beachgoers say they felt a rumbling under the sand Saturday. Seconds later, the ground exploding. Witnesses say she was like a human cannonball launched 4 feet into the air and then 10 feet sideways, slamming onto these rocks. Denise knocked unconscious for 3 minutes, suffering 2 broken ribs.
You could feel the whole thing like a mini earthquake.
Officials reopening the beach within 24 hours.
Would you feel better if they knew what happened before they reopened the beach?
Yes, I would. I would love to know what really caused that.
Right now, workers are digging